everyone, we're back, and today we have another requested video, and as you can tell by the title, it's how I found out I was pregnant. Now, I found out I was pregnant when I was 17, and I also had him when I was 17. I don't think it's going to be a very long story, honestly, but you all wanted to know, so here it is. Alright, so I didn't really have any pregnancy symptoms or anything before I took a pregnancy test. It's kind of weird. I had a dream that I was pregnant, like in my dream, and I woke up that morning and I was like, maybe I should take a test. And I don't know why, it was just a complete impulse thing, like maybe like you just know. I don't know. So I was still in high school, it was my senior year of high school, and I had senior in. And it's this thing where I didn't have a first period, and I would just show up later than juniors, sophomores, and freshmen because I was a senior, and that was an option for me. So both my parents were teachers at the time, and my brother was, I think he was in high school already. I think he was in high school. And so they were all already gone. And so I went to Walmart, self-checkout, because I wasn't about to walk up to some cashier and be like, hey, let me buy this pregnancy test. And so I got a pregnancy test, came home, took the test, and it must have been very early on in my pregnancy when I took this test, because there was a super faint line. Like, it was so faint. I took a picture of it, texted it to my boyfriend, and was like, do you see a line, or am I just imagining things? Because I literally thought I was imagining a line because it was so faint. And he texted me back that, he thought he saw a line too, and, keep in mind, I hadn't told him I was gonna go take this test because I wasn't expecting it to turn out positive. I just thought I had some weird dream, I'm gonna test because it's gonna bother me if I don't, and I ended up being pregnant. But I didn't think, the line was gonna show up or anything, so I just texted him out of nowhere, casual school morning, hey, do you see a line on this pregnancy test? And he was like, you should test again. We looked up all this information on, false positives and, what your HCG levels would be to take the test, and that your HCG levels should double the next day or something like that. They get higher the farther along in pregnancy you go early on. So every day I would take another test, and I don't know if I was in denial exactly, but I wanted to be absolutely positive. So I took probably around 10 to 15 pregnancy tests over the next 3 weeks. And I took one of every kind. I had the red line, the blue line, the digital that says yes and no, the digital that says minus and positive, the digital that's pregnant, not pregnant. And then I really wanted to get this one test, and it was called the Clear Blue Weeks Estimator, and it can estimate about how many weeks you are. It's 1 to 2, 2 to 3, or 3 plus, I think is what it was. And I really wanted to get my hands on this test, because how far am I don't know. So I looked everywhere. I looked in Walmart, and they had a place for it, but they didn't have any in there, and I really wanted to go somewhere with self-checkout, and I tried to look at Target. And keep in mind, I'm doing this all every morning before school, and I had school at I don't know, maybe 9 a.m. I would, after my parents would leave, I'd be oh, I'm going to school, and I'd go to, Walmart or Target and, hunt down this, one pregnancy test, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And I finally went into Walgreens, which I was, super reluctant to do, because I didn't want to go, to a cashier and be judged like that, but, I mean, when you're a teen parent, you get judged all the time, so I'm, totally used to it now, but, I mean, back then, I don't know, it was only, 2 years ago, but, I didn't want, people to look at me that way and, to question it, because I live in an area where not many teen girls get pregnant at all. It's a huge deal, apparently. And, so I went to Walgreens. They ended up having it there, and I go up to the cashier, and I go in, I'm, putting it up there and everything. She rings it up, and it, makes this weird, noise, you can't ring this up. And she tells me, it's on recall. and, like, I can't get it. And she's like, did you want to get some other kind of test? And I was like, no, like, it's fine. Like, I'll just buy, like, the freaking, like, billion snack cravings that I had and, like, walk out. And, like, she was probably like, okay, that's weird. Don't you want to know, like, if you're pregnant or not? But, like, I already knew I was pregnant. I just don't know how far along I was. And so I kept going back. Like, she's like, oh, we'll pull it from the shelves. So I keep going back, like the next day or a couple days later, and they're back on the shelves. So I go up, and I don't remember if it's the same cashier or a different one, but I'm pretty sure it's the same lady. And I go up, and she rings it up, and she's like, oh, like, these are on recall. Like, they must have not pulled them off the shelves when I asked. Like, are you sure you don't want to buy just another test? Like, I can ring up another clear blue for you. And I was like, no thanks. Like, I'm good. Like, I need to get to school, you know? So, eventually, I go back to Walmart, because I just keep taking tests, like, obsessively for no reason at this point. And, I go back to Walmart, and they have the weeks estimator there. And I'm like, of course you do. So I go up, self-checkout, ring it up. It's not on recall. Like, they, like, got a new, like, I don't know, shipment in or whatever. And, of course, I get home, I take the test, and it says 3+. Like, I already knew that. I've been looking for this test for, like, 3 weeks. Or it felt like 3 weeks. It's probably, like, 4 days. I don't know. But, anyway, I would, like, take the tests at home, and then I'd, like, take everything, like the box, like the actual test, and, like, I'd put it in, like, a Walmart bag, and I'd usually go get food before school because, you know, when you're pregnant, you're hungry all the time. So I would, like, go get food, and I'd, like, finish eating, and I'd take, like, the, I don't know, like, Sonic bag or something, and I'd stick the Walmart bag inside the Sonic bag, and then I'd go to school and, like, drop it in one of their trash cans outside, because I can't have any of that in my house, because I was not ready to tell my parents. And so eventually I've taken all these tests, and I want to know before I tell my parents that, like, everything's fine, like, I'm not gonna have, like, some, like, miscarriage or something, because those run in my family. I didn't want to tell them, and then, like, there end up not being a baby. So I looked everywhere for a place I could go that, like, I could get an ultrasound, and I wouldn't have to pay a lot, because I was 17, and, like, I didn't have that much money, or that I didn't have to have my insurance for, because I didn't want it to show up on my parents' insurance, and then that be, like, how they found out. So I ended up, excuse me, I ended up finding a clinic where I could go, and they would give you a free pregnancy test and a free ultrasound, super confidential, like, you had to have an ID to get in, like, they wouldn't leave messages on your phone, like, it was an unknown number, and if they left a message, it would be like, hey, it's the clinic, call us back, and, like, that's all they would say. And you didn't have to have insurance, like, it was all totally free. So I went there with my boyfriend, and they gave me the ultrasound, like, it was, like, a few weeks later. They gave me the ultrasound and everything, and that's the first time we saw him, and he was, like, this little teeny tiny, like, tadpole-looking thing on the screen, and we heard his heartbeat, and that's all they really look for. They look to see if there's the sac, the baby, and a heartbeat, and they don't really tell you, like, they can't tell you if it's healthy or anything like that. They're just like, there's a baby there, it has a heartbeat, you should go to an actual doctor. So I went there, we got the pictures, we actually saw, I mean, at that early on in pregnancy, I think I was 6 weeks and 4 days, at that point. That's what they had estimated for me, just based off of, like, my last, period, which I didn't know when it was. They just kind of guessed, and it actually turned out being pretty close. But they put my due date at June 27th the first time, then after the ultrasound for June 25th, and then that ended up changing later on. But we saw him on the screen, and I was like, well, that's it, I'm pregnant, I'm gonna have to tell my parents. And that's a whole other video. That one's gonna take a while. But yeah, that's pretty much just how I found out I was pregnant. Like, took buttload of tests and an ultrasound behind my parents' back in high school, which I don't know really how I did, but, you know, somehow I did it. So, yeah, that's how we found out this little munchkin was cooking. So, feel free to like and subscribe, and leave some comments down below about what else, like, what other videos you want me to film. I am going to do a How I Told My Parents. That one's already been requested quite a lot. So if you have any other ideas, leave them down below, and I'll make sure to read them in the next few days. Say bye, Raylan. He's so tired. Bye-bye. Yeah.